Very bad sign.
As long as you can still get cheese. As long as you
They're
can still
close.
get cheese, you should be okay.
In theory.
So
in
we're
theory.
gonna go
you're in
ahead and get
Cleveland.
started. As
You're on the
host-
bridge. I'm sorry, that's great.
Yeah, exactly. As host, I have the power to mute and unmute everyone, which is fantastic.
Wow.
So, now you're all gone. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon, this morning, this evening, depending on where you are on the planet. I wish we could be meeting under more auspicious circumstances than where we are right now. But one of the things that kind of hit me this week was community is only as strong as the people in it. And all of us are, we're scared. I think that's probably the right word. We have no idea how this is going to end and no idea how this plays out. And for some of us, it's companies, or it's big planetariums, or it's little planetariums, or it's museums and science centers. And what we can do at a time like this is simply to help each other. And so it's very meaningful having all of you participating today. Right now, we're at 77 people, which is probably about 3 times as many as I thought were actually going to show up. But we have a lot of ideas, and we have a lot of time, I think would be our big advantage now, to help one another and figure out the ways that we can come together as a community. So we're going to try to do a number of these e-conferences. As time goes on, we'll expand them, and it could be just a waiting room for people to just network with each other and have faces and voices to look at and to hear. But also to come up with ideas that at some point when this crisis passes, we're going to go back into our domes, and we're going to have to work with our local communities and do the sorts of things that help rebuild. I don't want to say the structure or the fabric of society, but we're kind of getting that way. Like, the bars are closed in Wisconsin. This is a big deal. So anything that we can do now that keeps our community strong, that allows us to continue to network and continue to develop professionally, all of that is going to be of an advantage. And so as we kind of move through today and through the e-conferences to follow, we're going to try to treat these as get-togethers, but also as a means for people to give papers and workshops. Today, if I had to pick one person who I would trust to give a presentation on the first day in front of 100 people online, it's Dayna Thompson. And so Dayna's going to be giving a presentation in just a few minutes about one of her programs. And then we'll turn it over to a number of different topics today. And so we're going to try to be as respectful of everyone's time as possible. But we also want to make sure that we can cover as much as we can in this conference and then in the subsequent ones to follow. So just briefly, I'm going to share one of my screens. This is our agenda for today. And you'll see that we've got our opening remarks today. We'll do a little bit about Zoom, Dayna's presentation in a few minutes, and then our reactions both to COVID-19 and to the future of what we believe these e-conferences can be. So just kind of want to keep that in mind as we're moving forward. So let's stop that share. So you guys are seeing that. Are you just nutty? Okay, good. As it's not on the right screen that says stop sharing, you're just looking at my desktop. So the thing real quick to go over, tips for your best conference experience. If you're not talking, muting is the best way. That kind of keeps the background noise to a minimum. Make sure you just check your video and audio as you're coming in. Everybody seems to have done that really well. And just remember that it's still technically a professional setting. So let's be as professional as we can while sitting in our homes. So good for that. And then the biggest thing, open mind, willingness to engage. We're going to do our best to make sure that as many voices are heard in as many different ways as possible. So what I'm going to do, we're going to exit out of our thing there and kind of go over a few of the Zoom features here that are super useful. I'm going to do something crazy and unmute all of you at once. 3, 2, and 1.
Hi.
Nobody's talking.
Oh,
We're all here.
Hey.
Yes. I hit
Now we're all talking.
I
What are you doing?
I'm
Yeah,
gonna mute
so
myself.
probably not the best idea. So I can mute all of you again and kind of gain a semblance of control. What we're going to do most of the time is utilize the Zoom group chat. I see a lot of you have been engaging in that already during presentations. And sort of as we queue up during forums, that's the best place to put questions. I'm always going to be looking at that. I believe that if you are not the host, you are able to raise your hand. Okay, Jackie, you're giving me a heads up. Okay, Dave, okay, great. Raising your hand is a fantastic opportunity in kind of just making sure that we, it's a quick way to pull things. And I'm looking at that on both sides of my screen. So if I see a little, hey, Patty's got her thumbs up there too. So you can react in a number of different ways. It's especially a good way to tell people they're doing a great job or that you agree with what they're saying without also having to unmute and interrupt them. So it's the internet. This is the future. Let's see how this works. So without further ado, I would like to turn over our first e-conference to Dayna Thompson from Ball State University over in Muncie, Indiana, here in the US. Dayna, of course, has been a member of GLPA and IPS for a number of years. Her and Danny LeBlanc from the Museum of Science in Boston head up the EID committee, the Equality, Inclusion, Diversity Committee for IPS. And enough talking about Dayna. We're going to turn it over to her. This is our first ever e-conference presentation. So without further ado, Dayna, you are in charge.
All right, thank you so much, Michael. Can everyone hear me okay? Just do a thumbs up if you can. And hopefully everyone can see my screen. I'm looking at you, Patty. So yes, okay, great, wonderful. So yeah, welcome everyone. And it's really an honor to be working not just with Michael on this, but with all of you on this first e-conference. It's a wonderful opportunity. And I definitely am seeing a lot of questions and a lot of worry come through the chat right now. And I don't want to take away from that larger discussion that I know we need to have today as a community. So that's not my goal right now when talking about this event. I'm hoping that by talking about this event, the Astronomy Slam that we had planned for next month, it'll help understand, what we can do for each other and what we can do for our communities, not just, in the planetarium, but during times like this. So I am from the Brown Planetarium at Ball State University. I'm their planetarium director. And we do have the largest planetarium in Indiana, which is in the United States. There's my contact information and some social media information on this title slide here. But if you ever want to reach out to me with any questions or comments or anything, please do through email, or you can add me on Facebook too. So as I mentioned, we do have the largest planetarium in Indiana at 16 meters across. And from the inside, you can see that we do have a digital system, and we also have an optomechanical system. So we have an integrated hybrid system. We use a Goto Chronos 2 analog projector or optomechanical projector. And then we also have RSA Cosmos Drive, our digital system, which is 4K. And we can seat 152. So as you can imagine, we are closed to the public. We are closed until May 15th at the earliest. We made that decision earlier this week. Last week, we made the decision to cancel all of our public programming. And then on Monday, we decided to cancel all of the programming, including all the school groups that were visiting or plan to visit. So during times like this, and other hard times in our lives, sometimes it's really difficult to do the easiest of tasks sometimes. And one of the pieces of advice that I've been given over the years when I'm struggling with how to approach a situation or what I can do to help prepare for a situation is that you just do it. And that's easier said than done, of course, and that works for some people. But for me, it's never really worked well. So what I try to do is take myself out of the equation, and instead of just doing it, try to just do it for others. So making it about other people, whether that's our students here at Ball State, other planetarium community members, anyone else like the public trying to come in for a show, or who can't come in for a show and might need a resort to seeing some content on social media or on YouTube. By removing myself from the equation always has helped me be able to bring, I think, the best quality product to the community. So it's something to think about when we're having these discussions, like what can we do for others at this point? So for this event that I've been referring to, I haven't explained yet, Astronomy Slam, I'm doing it for our students. So this was an event planned for students, and here's some pictures of our students presenting to faculty and staff, because again, we are on the campus of Ball State University, and we have undergraduate students in physics and astronomy. We also have graduate students, and they present their research, and they usually present their research to faculty and staff and students. They don't really get a chance to present it to the public. And I don't know about you, but presenting to the general public is a lot easier than presenting to your peers or people like in faculty and staff. So I wanted to give them another option, not just a colloquium series that they could present in or a poster presentation session, but this Astronomy Slam. And this was allowing them to present something that they were passionate about in front of a public audience, and an audience that really wanted to be there almost as much as they did, and maybe even more, to really be excited about science and to have fun with science and have it as a entertainment, kind of an entertainment option rather than something for a class or for work. So having this event in the planetarium and having students present in the planetarium hopefully was going to provide that. So it's a series of 10-minute presentations for this 7 different students. And they just had 10 minutes to present what they were passionate about, share a piece of the universe with the community in the most entertaining way as possible, so they could maybe win this competition, this friendly competition. So there are just really 3 goals of this event: to provide an opportunity for the students to share their passion for astronomy in a non-threatening atmosphere. So I like to use that term a lot, making it non-threatening. I try to do that for all of our public presentations, our hands-on activities for our community guests, but having an opportunity for the students to do that is not something that we've often done at Ball State, at least in our department. And then also give them an opportunity to have some friendly competition and discussion between students and build up a community between the students and help with things like retention and then also recruitment. And then also to award and recognize dedicated students. So it is a friendly competition. And there is an award, and I'll talk more about that in just a few. But this isn't a new idea. Like, I didn't just think of this. There's science slams going around all around the world, some with much better posters than what I created in a pinch. But they have these science slams. There's also a physics slam, which is from Fermilab. And I follow Fermilab. Their science magazine, Symmetry, is wonderful, and they have a wonderful social media presence that you can see at the bottom here. So there's Symmetry magazine on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I saw the most recent announcement from, I think, November of last year of their, what is it, 8th physics slam. And so when I saw this announcement that they are doing this event at Fermilab with over 800 people in the audience watching 5 different students give 10-minute presentations, and there's a winner at the end of it. I was like, how can we do that at Ball State? And so I just transitioned it into a astronomy slam and put it in the planetarium, and was really looking forward to doing that. But just to back up really quick, Symmetry Magazine, I saw it on their Facebook feed. If you don't follow them, please do. They don't just talk about particle physics. There's a lot of astronomy that they discuss too in their publications. So we had 7 student presenters. Looking back, we could have done just 5. 7 people said yes out of the people that I asked. So we ended up with 7. So it was going to be an hour-and-a-half presentation with 10-minute presentations from each of the 7 students back to back. At the end, there was going to be a reception with food and drink in our lobby where they could answer questions, and the audience members would vote on a winner. And the presentation topics that the students chose, because it was a topic that was important or special or something that they're passionate about, are listed here. So there's research presentations like short period binary stars, but then also other types of presentations like talking about faith in science. And astronomy is the arts. Some of you might be thinking, oh, okay, so we can look at these astronomical images and they look like art pieces, and she was going to talk about that. Well, she was actually going to mostly talk about pop culture and how there's astronomy references and music lyrics and different pop culture references. So she's kind of taking a different spin on that topic. Exoplanets is a popular topic, of course, but the student was going to talk about his research with transit timing variation. If you haven't heard about that, it's a really interesting way to detect exoplanets. So check it out. And then presentations on galaxy formation, sound in space, and one of my favorite titles, The End of All Things, because of just the type of person I am. So kind of how things will end one day, possibly in our universe with either the big crunch or the big freeze, stuff like that. So there was going to be a winner. There's out of the 7 students, we're going to have pictures up on the dome with their of their faces, and then the presentation title, and then just so people could remember who presented what at the beginning and the end of the presentation. And then at the end, we were going to have a QR code, because we don't have clickers yet in the planetarium, but we were going to have a QR code on the dome that they could scan with their phone. And we've done that before. We've put QR codes on the dome, and it's worked before with scanning on the phone to bring them to a survey to fill out. For people who didn't have that option, we're going to have just handouts, ballots basically, that they could fill out, and we could get a winner at the end of the event. And I ordered a really nice award for this, so a champion award, and it has the year on it, so we kind of have to do it this year, or at least, you know, it's the 2020 award, but maybe we award it worst case scenario next year. We were hoping to do an online version of this because this event did get canceled, as well as every other event up until May 15th at this point, and we're probably looking into some summer closure as well currently, unfortunately. So I was thinking about doing an online version and still trying to award this champion award to one of the students that have really been putting a lot of work into this. I have 6-page outlines for a 10-minute talk from some of the students. So I was really trying to find an alternative way of doing this. So our RSA system can export equirectangular frames from our system, and we can encode these frames into a video, a VR video that we can put on YouTube. And so the viewer would see something more like this. And I would do that for the student, put it on YouTube. I already did it for one of the presentations on galaxy formation. And I would just need them to record themselves presenting. So they could record a video of themselves or just audio. And they would just need to send it to me. I could overlay that onto the system here, the video here, and then it could just go on YouTube. We could do an online version of this and have a Google form for the vote. Unfortunately, the first video that I created and spent a few days on creating this 10-minute sequence, rendering it out, getting a sample on YouTube for the student unfortunately had to back out due to family reasons, and that's completely understandable. So right now I'm considering canceling the online version so that the students can focus on their classwork as well as their families and safety at this time. So I told the students that I'm looking at canceling it. If they have any feedback or comments on that, to let me know, but I'd be making the decision next week. So if I don't hear any overwhelmingly positive or strong opinions from the students, it's looking like it's just going to be canceled, unfortunately. So going back to the original message, we can try to do these things online. A lot of people are doing online options, and it's really inspiring. And we can do it, for other people. But also try to remember to take some time for yourself. So one of the most recent presentations or programs that I've created for the planetarium community is our sunset meditation program. So just a reminder to take some time for yourself and do what some STEM workers do, including NASA professionals and astronauts, and maybe enjoy the sunset meditation program that we do have in 360-degree view on YouTube that you can enjoy at home. I shared it on our Facebook page. It's gotten a lot of shares, a lot of likes, a lot of link clicks. So it's been pretty popular online to our community, and you're welcome to share it that way too. You can eventually then download this presentation for free and present it in your dome, either to the public or just to your staff for professional development reasons. And one last message, there's this TED Ed video. I don't watch as many as I used to, but I really enjoy TED Ed videos, and there's one on the power of creative constraints. If you haven't seen it, please, and even if you have seen it, just watch it again, because if this situation is anything, it is a creative constraint, and it shows just how much we can do and what we can think about and the new things that we're capable of by having constraints like what we're experiencing now. And if it's one thing the planetarium community knows how to do, it's collaboration. We can collaborate with one another. We have to collaborate with one another based on our small staffs or the projects that we want to complete. So, when you're thinking about doing this for others, maybe it doesn't stop there. You don't just think about that. So try to reach out to people who might not be as tech savvy, or are staff of one who might need someone to work on music or a narrator or creating video for you, and try to work together that way. And then also by doing this, we can really come up with creative ways to do the essentials. And so when we talk about keeping the essential establishments open during these times, education is definitely a part of that list. And so I'm really excited to see where this leads us. I know it's really hard, but I'm hopeful and confident that the planetarium community is amazing at facing challenges like these, and we can come out really strong. So that's really all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you, Dana. That was fantastic. And we're opening it up to questions now. So I think our first question would come from Mr. Dave Weinrich. So Dave, you're able to unmute yourself and you can take over the questioning.
Okay.
There we go.
Just figured out how to unmute it. Excellent presentation, Dana. I especially agree with the point about helping others. We're helping each other in the planetarium family. I've been in touch with some of our colleagues via Skype and so forth in Australia and Italy and Ghana. And we're all part in this together. We're all part of this worldwide family. So thank you, Dana. Thank you, Michael, and everyone else that's putting all this together. And this is also an opportunity, as we were able, to help the communities in which we live. I live in a small village here in Western Wisconsin, 400 people with about 5 bars. But no, we're organizing a Facebook group to help people, get connected with their neighbors. So I think that, helping other people, it also includes maybe our neighbors, our friends in the communities, as we are able. So that's the end of my comment.
Thanks, Dave. Any other questions for Dana? All right. Well, I think that went incredibly well. Oh no, we have a hand up from Andy. Andy, go on ahead. You can unmute and ask your question.
More of a comment. Dana, I would just communicate to those students if they have the wherewithal to give their presentations and put them together, you have the opportunity to put them together with video. Just let them know they have an enthusiastic extra audience of planetariums to watch their work.
Absolutely. I noted at that in one of the emails, but this was when everything was happening. And so I didn't want to put maybe too much pressure on them. So it's kind of the balance between, I worry that some of them backed out because having something recorded and put up online for all of history is a little bit intimidating to some students, whereas presenting for 10 minutes and having it be over, it's a lot different. So I wonder if I was trying to be cautious or sensitive to those types of concerns from the students. But I in the future, if I have the right students, or excuse me, if I want to communicate that to the students, I definitely will.
Dana, I have a quick request. Could you, after this is over, post any links, like particularly the TED Ed video in Dome Dialogues? That would be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, oh, just looking at the chat, seeing if there's any questions. From Marco, Dana and all, it's great we can convert our programs to VR. Under which circumstances is this feasible or financially appropriate for your planetarium? So Dana, could you talk to perhaps what like the financial considerations were in putting that together?
So we offer all of our programming free of charge. We're really fortunate that we get our funding from the College of Science and Health that we're a part of, or Science and Humanities, excuse me. So I have a production station behind me here. And the production station we purchased a few years ago. And by using that, I can do all of the VR creation. I do rely heavily on, if you're interested in the cost of that, I'd be happy to put you in touch with the vendor who could give you more information on that. But I do rely heavily on ESO and their full dome clips that they have available within their full dome library. And if you're not sure how to download those clips or encode them for your facility, I'd also be happy to explain that.
Great. All right, we're gonna go to, I think I saw Keith Davis's hand up. Keith, if you have a question, we'll go you. And if not, we've got a question from Jim Bader in the chat.
Yeah, I raised my hand earlier because I was just going to ask how you made the VR version, but I think you kind of answered it. But if you want to get more detail, please do.
Yeah, so the RSA system, software system, I can create the programs, and then they have certain capture options, so capturing software, and I can capture it in full HD, 4K, 8K, and then also 4K equirectangular. So it's just a capture option within the RSA Cosmos software.
All right, Dayna, we've got a question from the chat from Jim Bader. How did you reach out to students to get involved, and how many did you have apply to be part of it?
Yeah, great question. So we, within the physics and astronomy department, all of the astronomers, the research astronomers, and then people who are involved with astronomy outreach, like myself and our planetarium staff, we have occasional recruitment and retention meetings. And at one of those meetings, I proposed this idea, and I got a list of interested or potentially interested students. So I have 4 students out of the 7 that are planetarium assistants. And then I got 3 other names from the faculty of students who might be interested, who are at a part or a point in their research projects that they could present. And so I got the list of 7. I reached out thinking that not all of them would accept, and all of them said yes.
Excellent. All right. Do we have any more questions for Dayna, either in the chat or hands up? All right, Dayna, I feel like we're going to let you go. So thank you so much for the first ever paper presentation at a Dome Dialogues E conference. So we're just busting through walls today. So all of the very polite hands throughout the room.
Thank you so much, Michael. And I'm not, you can let me go, but I'm going to still be involved with the rest of the e-conference. So I'll stick around.
Fantastic. All right, so before we open up the forum to kind of the main reason we're here today, which is the reactions to the coronavirus and what we're going to kind of all going through, we do have Mark SubbaRao, who is the president of the International Planetarium Society, IPS, and Mark's agreed to talk a little bit about IPS and sort of answer any questions that you might have about the organization or, of course, the postponement of the conference. So, Mark, we'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, I don't really have much to say. As you know, we made the decision to postpone the conference. We've been looking at when that will be till. You know, a couple of things. All projections are that this is going to take a while. So, and it's becoming a pretty difficult thing to find a date, to be honest. So. We're looking at maybe doing it in 2021, but the challenge is there with all the things we need to avoid. So the conference situation is very much up in the air at this point. We're also trying to figure out how we can do some of the other functions we need to do without the conference. One thing for everyone to think about is we have elections coming up, and we need people to run for all of the officer positions. So I encourage everyone here to think about that. But really what I was hoping, and you know, thanks so much for putting this together, Michael. It's amazing how many people have shown up, but just to get some feel from the community about what IPS can be doing to support all of you right now. So yeah, if there are any ideas, I'd love to hear them.
Mark, is there any idea about possibly doing virtual conferencing during the dates of IPS so we can still stay connected during that time? Because I know a lot of us have already requested that time off.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll have, I think we're probably not set up to do the full conference virtually, but we're talking about elements of that for sure. Certainly things like our business meeting, maybe doing that virtually. This is a good experiment to see how well large groups of people do. So I think it's all possible at this moment. I've seen some places where some of the council conferences, they've done things like people have recorded videos and put them up for different people to watch. That might be an option as well.
Mark, one thing that IPS might be able to do on behalf of like all planetariums, I don't know. I know I've seen some things going around from like a museum associations about trying to lobby the government to support museums financially, but that might be something that IPS could also try to support in some way, trying to get, because I know we're all going to be hurting financially from this. So trying to get some government support when all of this is done for us.
Yeah, definitely. There is, of course, that's all part of the challenge of being a international organization, is that all varies depending on what country you're in. So there have been some discussion about like writing a letter of support for Italian planetariums, for example, and we're definitely willing to do that. But I think a lot of that, when it's driven from the community making a request, a specific request, we can definitely write those letters of support or anything like that. I'm trying to scan all of the chat window, which there's a lot too. Jim, the business meeting is interesting. Come on, man. Supposed to be anyway. Yeah, let's see.
And a requirement of the organization. It's a critical requirement of the organization to have a business meeting. That's where you get elections information, conference stuff, all the important things that make the organization go.
Yeah, I think, this is true of us. It's true, I think, of a lot of organizations you've seen, is that there's a push to sort of move more things digitally, that this is forcing, and we're going to have to be smart about that.
So any other questions for Mark before we move on now into open forum? And if you're following in the chat, Jim Sweat's bring up a very important point that for both vendors and planetariums, this is a huge financial hit. And IPS, of course, being in an organization that requires the financial support of biennial conferences, let alone what happens through the planetarian and through the yearly dues. This is something that we've got to keep in mind, and something that I know for most of you is at the forefront of your minds. And I think that's a very appropriate segue into sort of the main portion of today's e-conference. And that's just kind of getting a sense in our community about how things are going, what you're hearing, what you're feeling. This is an opportunity for, it's not often that we get to get in large groups of our peers and our colleagues and talk about the future like this, or at least as candidly as we can be. So we're going to try to moderate to make sure we don't have 1,000 people talking over each other. But really, it's, if you'd like to share your story, you'd like to participate, raise your hand. It goes to the very top of the participant list, and then we can moderate you right in. So I'll kind of turn that over to everyone. All right, Kat, you are up first.
Hi, everyone. So this question is more specific to planetariums that fall in the nonprofit museum kind of category, where attendance revenue is a huge part of how we are sustained. What are some strategies that you're exploring to raise funds while you're shuttered? I know we have enough in reserves to get through a few months, but if this went into our busy summer season, it would be catastrophic, to say the least. So I'm interested in what strategies you're exploring at your facilities.
Should we just respond if we have something or?
Yeah, feel free. And at least at this point, we wanted to make sure that the questions were set up. So Brian, of course, we'll have you a question, but Mary, feel free to chime in.
So I work at the California Academy of Sciences out in San Francisco, and I personally am not super involved in how we make our money and fundraising and whatnot. But what I have seen happen so far, and I'm sure this will change over time and as people figure out what we're going to do, but like, for instance, our biggest fundraiser of the year, this like annual gala that we have was canceled. But one of the things that they've done is that when they sent out the announcement for it, they suggested that anyone who had tickets for it, that they donate the price of those tickets to the museum. Since, you know, we are going to be hurting a lot because a lot of our revenue is from, or not revenue, but yeah, is from attendance. So things like that are reaching out to, if you have members at your museum, and suggesting like, take that money that you would already spend to come here to just make a donation. Might be a place to start.
Marco?
Thank you. Well, in our case, our mobile planetarium is a family business, so you can understand we're done with this. So we're going to do something different. Since we are producers, we have a company that makes videos of all kinds. We're going to pour our educational contents into an online subscription portal so that we can continue to make our productions not in a planetarium, but online. We're going to try to do that to keep our business together. That's it.
All right. Brian, did you want to add anything to this in particular, or did you want to move on to another question? Because if not, Carolyn, you're up.
Unmute. Oh yeah. Actually, I agree with Marco. We've sort of been going through that ourselves here because we're obviously have seen everything just go flat as all of us have. And what can we do? And a large part of my thing is I still want to continue to teach astronomy and bring it to people. And there are a lot of kids at home who they can't go to the planetarium, they can't go to their classroom. And what can we do? So we're kind of thinking about some ideas there. We're producers too, so obviously we can do that. The other thing I was going to mention is that I'm a member, or I was a member, I'm not right at the moment, but of both Aztec and AAM, and they've got some pretty good resources coming out that people can look at. Even if you're not a member, go to their websites and see what they've got for suggestions, because while they have some dire predictions about who's going to be open and who's not, they're also pulling together to bring some ideas to people about how you can keep your public face open even if people can't come to your dome. So that's kind of why I came here today, was to share that as well.
Yeah. Paulette, going ahead.
Yeah, so I work at the Michigan Science Center, and I posted one of the videos that I had sent out that we had posted through our Facebook page, but we're actually doing virtual programs every day of the week, or all of our weekdays at 2:30. And right now we're a little less worried about revenue coming in and more worried about trying to make sure that our community stays safe. And trying to make sure that we can be partners in the community. So all of our programs right now are free, and we're looking at how we can offset those with donations. But we're in a pretty poverty-stricken area, and a lot of people aren't even able to have access to food, let alone be able to buy 2 or 3 weeks worth of groceries at one time, like everybody is suggesting. So we're trying to provide our programming at no cost and then offset it with donor dollars through our Facebook page. And then I love the idea of asking our members who would have come to the Science Center anyhow to donate. I think that would be a fantastic thing to do.
Brian, I'm gonna we'll loop you in here.
Unmute. There we go. Sorry. Yeah, my hand raise was very much tied into all of this. So thank you, Kat, for starting this. this kind of thread. So I love everything that's been said so far. Really, really good suggestions. I'm kind of in a similar position with what Paulette was just saying, where our education department at our museum is more focused on providing services, even if they're free, stay in the good graces of the community, so that when we're all back open again someday, you want people to say, hey, remember all that cool stuff the planetarium did while we were all sitting around at home? And I think that can go a long way. I have been privy to a few more admin level conversations, and I know our museum is looking into things like an endowment draw to cover costs and get us through this time, because there is no revenue coming in at this point. We have 0 gate admissions. Every school group has been canceled, but we're definitely starting to explore those free possibilities. I know there are people who are walking through exhibits in our museum, doing like live tours so that people can go on our Facebook page and see what that is. I actually just did this morning, did a test run of a virtual moon phase program that we're gonna hopefully offer live to our community next week. We're in the position right now in Connecticut, the kids are at home. Sorry, dog's squeaking on a chew toy. Apologize for the background noise. So we are, our community, we've got the kids, they're at home, at school. The teachers are expected to provide hours upon hours of digital curriculum. And so we've reached out to some local teachers and said, hey, if we have a history program or an astronomy program, would you be interested in that? And they see us as lifesavers. They're like, oh my God, when and where can you do that for me? So I think those, we're actually using this very same platform, using Zoom, to try to take that reach and be a part of the community. And again, it's all free. Thankfully, we're in a position where the museum is able to continue paying myself and other education staff. So this is kind of where we're at to kind of try and do our part.
All right, we're going to go Ken Brandt, then Mark Webb, and then Steve Fentress.
Okay, I'm sorry if I'm kind of breaking in the middle of the thread here with a comment. This reminds me a lot of the post-Hurricane Matthew and Hurricane Florence events here locally. The same kind of panic buying is happening. You know, the only difference is we actually have roads we can travel on now and electrical power. Other than that, it's very, very familiar.
Yeah, I would just like to emphasize once again that anything that you can do while we're going through this period is going to be beneficial for you on the other side. If you can show your administrators and other funders that you were actively, working on your mission during this period, is going to put you in good stead. I'd also like to request that maybe IPS leadership could think about putting together a sort of letter of support that people could supply you with email addresses of their administrators, museum administrators or school district members, that IPS could send that letter to them directly talking about how great that local planetarium is. I think, getting support from an outside agency is helpful to people who may be experiencing the danger of budget cuts once this is over. So that's it.
Thanks, Mark. We can definitely do that. I mean, I'm writing some of those today. But maybe what we'll do is put something out formally to let everyone know that that's a service we provide.
Yeah, I think if people are able to give you the names of important people that are overseeing the fate of their planetarium, and they get an unsolicited correspondence from an international organization, it just kind of boosts their visibility a bit.
Yeah. Ed, Steve Fentress?
Yes, so like others, while we're closed, our museum is doing a stream of Facebook videos, and we're going to try an online planetarium show and so on. The purpose immediately is to maintain awareness. And one of the, for me, fresh, interesting voices in the museum consultant landscape, maybe you've heard of her, is Colleen Dillenschneider. I'm looking at her website. She analyzes responses to visitor serving institutions. And her latest one on COVID-19, she reminds us it costs 5 times more to acquire customers than it does to retain existing customers. If your organization cannot afford efforts to maintain audience awareness right now, then your organization certainly cannot afford to buy it back later. So that's where we are now. When we reopen, it's still going to be very stressful. I've worked really hard to put together a diverse and complementary crew of part-time people, and now I have no work for them. So that's really bad.
All right, Brett Jacobs.
Hi, I'm Brett from Jacksonville, Florida, at the Museum of Science and History. I think one thing too we all might want to think about is showing everyone how we're keeping the planetariums or your museums clean, and how you're doing that maybe, or even why you're doing that, just to show that it's going to be a safe environment when everything gets back to normal. And I want to be positive when it gets back to normal. Hopefully it will be sooner than later. That might not be so much of the programming content, but it can be part of it. You can actually show, what you're using to clean, why you're using this particular thing to clean, and what you're cleaning. We've already done some where I was theming our planetarium carpets the other day, because I'm allowed to back in our museum for the next 2 weeks at least. So I'm cleaning. I'm cleaning everything from top to bottom. That's it.
Emily.
Oh, sorry. Oh, you already unmuted me. Sorry. I was wondering, since we're starting to organize our online content to be putting out with our community, and by the way, this is Hilo Hawaii Inaugural Astronomy Center. And I was wondering, for those of you who have already done this, because I think your guys' responses have been a bit faster than ours, what is the impact that you have seen from putting out this online content? And what are the responses that you've seen from it? Has it been hitting members of your community, and how so? I got some responses in the chat, I see.
Yeah, if it's a direct response to this sort of thing where maybe it's only 1 or 2 sites, feel free to unmute and then remute when you're done. So
one thing that we've done here at Abrams Planetarium in East Lansing, John French, who works here, kind of did it, and he was doing it based off of something Derek Pitts used to do on the radio. But we've been doing Facebook Live events in the evening and having people go outside and actually look at the sky and doing basically a guided star talk. And so he just kind of did the first one on a whim, and then we scheduled the next one at 7 a.m. and people actually were up at 7 a.m. with me doing that. So I consider that with 12 hours notice. I posted it at 7 a.m. So I took that as a good thing. Ended up being cloudy, so I ended up talking about other things you can do with your kids real quick, but we've been trying to watch the weather, so the next clear sky we're going to try that again with more notice. Someone said, is Derek Pitts not still doing the radio thing? I don't know, but I know that John got the idea from Derek Pitts doing that. So we've been doing that with our local community. So we're keeping an eye out and trying to do that. So, but the fact that people are waking up earlier in the morning when they don't have to right now, I'm going to take as a win. So.
All right, Peter Hedman.
Oh, hello, Peter Hedman here from the Cleveland Museum of Natural History. My question to everyone is, do you think we could create some kind of list of our major online events that we might be planning to do, so we can all tune in and kind of be inspired by each other? Just kind of a calendar of our major outreach events. Oh,
so
sorry.
I know that the zoos did that. They did that on their Zoo Creepers Facebook page. So we could use our Dome Dialogues Facebook page to do the same thing. Sorry, this is Dayna from Mid-America.
All right, if we
jump.
Why is it?
All right. In this case, we're going to go with Stephen Bradley. He's got 2 questions as well. Stephen, if you want to go on ahead.
Can everybody hear me? All right. Okay, I'm coming in clear. So the 2 questions I have coming from a student presenter. My entire program, which is student led, was just kind of kicked off our campus in the last week. So we're trying to figure out how we're going to work digitally without any of our planetarium software. So if anyone knows any good free software we can use on our own, at-home computers, be it Stellarium or Universal Sandbox, that would be really useful. And I guess the second question I have is, with reports of this epidemic possibly leading in, for more than 2 or 3 months, some estimates going up to 18 months, if we do try to reopen planetariums, how are you guys going to try to kind of distance people and space people out, even with, live shows, if you're going to do that at all? Oh, Starry Night, I see, is a good option. Okay.
Jim, go on ahead.
Right. Hi. Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Hey, Michael, thank you for doing this. I think this is spot on. And Dayna, the talk was great. And I think that this is the kind of thing that needs to be done. And I'm just going to talk to you quickly about 2 of the hats I wear. First of all, I do teach in a college, and the college is reeling from this thing, and they don't even know exactly what to do from day to day. And that's not just a small art school in Chicago. That's even the bigger universities are having tremendous difficulty. The other thing that caught my attention, I've had maybe a little more experience working in the really big museums, but the Metropolitan Museum in New York City is going to lose $100 million between now and July. So from my perspective, I've been in at the board level on a lot of these projects and museums. They're going to be reeling, whether it's your college, your school system, or your parent museum. And so I think this is the thing to keep in mind. So renovation projects, if I were a vendor, I'd be terrified. And I mean, I am a little bit of a vendor because I consult. There's going to be a real contraction up at the top to try to preserve themselves. So that I think these outreach ideas, the idea of keeping a list and doing virtual Star Walk, this is terrific. This is really the right thing. Keeping your audiences stimulated and entertained. And there's going to be every sort of local variant, from Dayna's students to someone taking Star Walks in Michigan in the middle of the winter, to whatever. This is going to be really important. And I like the idea of a group keeping some of these things together. And the other thing I think, just from my humble opinion for this community, is that the vendors are going to be stressed to the max because of this, so that keeping users groups together and tightly to be able to help support each other to keep your systems going is going to be critical as well. So I really think this is going to be a big game changer, because financially the legs are going to be cut out from under a lot of institutions and a lot of systems. And so you're going to do everything you can to stay alive. And but I think these outreachy programs are really a nice one. I've done one just to pass the time. I'm not even a planetarium, right? I have a new electronic telescope. I go out and observe all the time, and I'm posting those observations daily now. So anything you can do like that is really great. I think there's a lot of good ideas. But I love the idea of having a page posted. I also think the IPS, I love the IPS, and Mark and Sean and all you guys are terrific. But I think the IPS should treat this in crisis mode and try to decide what are the important things the community needs now. When the meeting happens is important for a lot of people, especially vendors, I know. But on the other hand, I think come summertime, people are going to be scrambling with a whole set of challenges and questions we don't even know now. And we're in tactical mode. So all I can say is good luck. And Michael, thank you for doing this. This is terrific.
Yeah, Jim, no doubt this is a huge crisis, unlike any we've had to deal with in a long time. So and in that article, the New York Times article about the net that you mentioned. I think there was a quote in there about a third of, I think they were talking about art museums, but a third of museums may be shuttered by the end when this is over. So yeah, I think we certainly recognize how serious this is for our industry.
All right, Kat Hunt.
I was gonna make a comment on the earlier question about different online methods and remind everyone that there are people posting stuff on Dome Dialogues, and also to kind of talk about my approach rather than doing videos and things like that. I've been doing activities and the teachers in my community really, really like those. So that's another way, especially if you are in a million different directions. Like I'm homeschooling my daughter in addition. So it's hard for me to sit down and do videos consistently, but I can do activities at night and then I post them and people can access them at any time that's convenient.
Julietta.
I work with a local artist called Lindsay Myers, and we put together a curriculum of activities to connect the planetarium to the outdoors through art activities, like tracking, like looking at the moon. But there were different activities like draw with the shadows projected by the moon and things like that. And then the plan was create a kind of journal that could be communicated, that could move between planetariums, so the kids would realize that they are looking at the same sky by showing their journals to each other. So it ties in a little bit with this idea of activities, and it can be an excellent opportunity to connect direct experience to what we put up in the dome. So, very, very experiential, how like the person who just spoke was saying. But I'll revise that and try and post something in Dome Dialogues in case it's useful. And I'm going to talk to Lindsay about it, in case it's useful. And if you have any questions or want to talk to someone about this, like art and science activities, connecting experiential reality to science and stuff like that, just feel free to message me.
Great, thanks, Julietta. And if you haven't been following along in the chat, there's of course been a number of very good recommendations. Starry Night, Stellarium, Worldwide Telescope, Open Space. Particularly, we have an offer from Dan Tell of the California Academy of Science. If you want to know more about Open Space, to contact Dan. And all of these, of course, being either open source or free or useful. And then, of course, there are the series of softwares that don't have anything to do with the planetarium, but allow us to be able to take content and export it easily, to create it easily. For those of you who have done whether it's YouTube Live or Facebook or Twitch, you've probably worked with OBS before. It's an open source software for essentially collecting sources and then outputting it to allow you to live stream. And for something that's free, it is one of the most powerful pieces of software you've got. And so all of these different things, whether you're in an academic setting and you're used to something like Camtasia, it's kind of it's seeing how clever we can get, kind of piecing all of these things together to be able to produce this new sort of content. And then just so that everyone is aware, the session is being recorded. It'll be on YouTube once we're all completed with this. The chat history gets saved for both the Zoom chat and the chat on YouTube. So there'll be a lot of information that you can go back and look at, list of everyone. And then, of course, as time goes on, we can, of course, build up a list of sort of experts in certain fields that you might want to talk to, who can give you guidance on specific aspects of this content creation. Any other questions? Anybody want to take over we're perfectly on time, and we've still got a fair amount we would like to talk about. Anything in addition here with COVID-19, Corona, and what we're doing in our places? I'm seeing Dave Weinreich's palm, so we're going to go with Dave Weinreich.
Yes. Hello again, everyone. It's amazing how we as a planetarium community are adaptable. And this is going to test our adaptability to the extreme as conditions change. I read an interesting article in the New York Times, the world opinion piece. The world we once lived in has vanished. And this opinion writer says it's not coming back. But it may be a better world that comes out of this. I mean, all of us are aware of, the debate about climate change. People may take it seriously now. People may, take seriously some of the issues that we as planetarians have been raising about the health of our planet. So in the end, it may, turn out to be a good thing, and we'll learn what really matters in life, in the world. I see that in our planetarium community. I was talking with Simonetta in Italy a few days ago. I was talking with Jacob in Ghana, talking with Glenn Moore over in Australia. And there's incredible sense of community and family. And I think this is going to make that stronger in our community. And it's also going to help us to form stronger connections with people in the world. So it may have some positive things come out of it, even though it's going to be very challenging.
Anyone else? All right, kind of looking through. Oh, Marco, I saw a hand, and then Marco, and then we'll go Carolyn.
Well, of course, you can count on me on any content that we can produce together. We have already done that with the International Day of Planetariums. We made a test with a small program that we are sharing to all of you through that page. And I think that this exercise is really interesting because some of you translated it, then some of you narrated it in other languages. And it's a very interesting experiment that we can make a global production from time to time. And under these circumstances, I think we can do that a lot. So I expect to work with a lot of you soon. Thank you.
Carolyn?
I think mine is a little bit larger message, in that I'm sitting here in a very rural area in Colorado, and we don't have a planetarium. I have one, but we can't take it out anywhere. We can't bring anybody under it to do anything. So I've been sort of reaching out to see what else I can do. And almost one of the first things that I kind of put it out in our community. We have many Facebook groups. And the first thing somebody said is, our veterinarian needs masks. And so I'm sewing masks for people. And I'm making them out of astronomy related cloth so that they can remember that the stars are out there and that we all have really cool things out there that we can talk about. And then it gives me a chance to talk to them about astronomy from 6 feet away when I take them to deliver them. So we have really important things we can all do in our own community. And I'm feeling the loss of just having daily contact with people. There isn't a day goes by that we don't hear from somebody as a client or a friend or whatever, talking about something that's related to our community, and that's all gone away. So it's kind of important that I think, you did this thing today. I'm going to try and get in as many as I can, but we also remember that, somebody's still out there and thinking about each other. And that's what made this important.
Andy, going ahead.
Yeah, this kind of ties in with what Dave was bringing up and what Carolyn was speaking of. So, I run my own portable business and don't have to rely on that for our income. I have very fortunate. My wife works for Roku, which does streaming content, so they should probably be doing pretty well in this environment. So, I feel very fortunate, and I'm going to personally to take this time to develop some more content with kind of a broader perspective. So I've had this idea racking around in my head ever since the Iraq War, when I was doing a presentation, and a little girl from a military community asked me, "Hey, my dad's over in Iraq right now. What are the stars like over there?" am I seeing the same stars? And I had to look on a globe to see that, yeah, they're basically the same latitude. So I'm developing this program about, I live in Santa Cruz, California, which is right on 37 degrees latitude. And it's a pretty interesting latitude, actually. The borders of a bunch of Western states are right along 37 degrees. And so the whole idea was to find out, what do we have in common with people that live along the same line of latitude, but kind of bringing a broader perspective into it. So that's one thing I'm doing, but, also just focusing on, my family and broader communities. I'm on the board of a small nonprofit that deals with elder abuse in nursing homes, and the people that work for our organization can't go into nursing homes, and we have to figure out ways to do that. And I'm going to try to give blood on Saturday. So yeah, the idea that we're in a changing world, and we have this constant around us that for almost my entire lifetime has provided some solace, this sort of cosmic perspective. I plan to punch that a little bit even more than I have when doing my programs, assuming I can do them again. So yeah, that's about it.
Let's head to California. Toshi.
Hey everybody, Toshi from Cupertino, California. Nice to see everybody. First of all, Michael, just want to say that you're doing a great job moderating this, so I've been really impressed by that. So thank you for that. Just reiterating everyone's thanks on that and for getting this started. One thing that I want to mention, just kind of seeing Shannon talking, it reminded me that for the last couple of years, the PPA, Pacific Planetarium Association, has been holding Zoom seminars, and just sort of as a PPA representative, I just wanted to throw that out there, that actually Shannon and is along with a couple others is doing one scheduled for next week, a week today. I believe it's at 2 o'clock Pacific time. Shannon can probably update us on that time, but that's something that it's a little bit different format from this. It's more of just sort of like a panel presentation if you haven't seen one. So just kind of a plug out there to let everyone know about it. I'll put the URL in the chat for everybody. But just, I see great hope in all of us coming together to do something like this, and the possibilities of what we can do with the digital resources that are available. And every now and then I think about, what it would be like if this was happening, 5 years ago or 10 years ago, when we didn't have all these digital resources and tools to connect to each other, even though we're physically isolated in our homes. Some of you may have heard on the news that the governor of California here put the entire state on shelter in place orders. The Bay Area where I am started that a couple days ago. Feels like 1,000 years ago, but it's a couple days, that was announced this past Monday. But I think it is an opportunity for us all to come together as we have, I think, as a community, that we appreciate that even though in general we're, again, physically separated, that we all share the sky, as has been mentioned in the chat as well, and that we're all connected in one way or another. So
yeah, and just to kind of piggyback on what Toshi said, the next e-conference is tentatively scheduled for next Wednesday. It's supposed to be 9:30 Eastern time, which is not great for California. Wanted to do something that would be a little bit better for international. But Shannon, Tiffany Walbrecht, and Renee Kerrigan from East Lansing and from Youngstown and from Peoria, they're actually going to be speaking briefly on Wednesday during the next e-conference about the PPA presentation. It's also the reason why we're not going to have one of these next Friday, because if it's an hour and a half in the afternoon and then another hour later in the evening, we wanted to make sure that those ladies and the work of Big Astronomy in particular gets out there as much as possible. So that's why you're not going to see an e-conference next Friday, because we're going to defer to the PPA webinar a little bit later in the day. Do we have anyone else? John Elvert. going to unmute John Elver. There we go.
Unmuted, thanks. Yeah, great job so far. We have, I hope, been watching some satellite images of Europe and especially Asia and China. And I think once our dome reopen, it'd be interesting to show the public that the decrease in light pollution as well as the carbon imprint on the country as a whole. So I've been looking at satellite imagery of China before and after, like last December and now, and you can see a real dramatic difference in the decline of carbon and methane in the atmosphere. It's like the skies cleared up. So this would be kind of cool to show that on domes, that kind of a before and after of atmospheric disturbance or climate as a result of climate change too. So just a bright spot in all this negativity there, what we can do in the dome. Thanks.
All right, we're going to go over to Germany, Anna Green.
Hi, I just wanted to chime in on the next one of these e-conferences. I'm going to be co-hosting with Michael, and it's not that I don't love my fellow Americans, but I would really love to see more international presentations and seeing what's going on. So if English is not your native language and that makes you nervous about presenting, one, please don't feel nervous. I make a fool of myself speaking German every day here in Berlin, and I feel you. So don't worry about that. We would just love to hear from you. And if you would really rather present in your native language and there is an interest in that, we can make breakout sessions in the various languages. I speak German and French, so if you would like to contact me in one of those languages, you're more than welcome. I'm sorry I don't speak anything else well enough. But yeah, feel free to contact me or Michael, and please, please, please present. That goes for everybody, of course, but especially next time around Europe and Asia and Australia. That would be awesome. So.
Thank you, Anna. So if there's this is probably a good time to transition, since we've begun talking a little bit about the next e-conference, is one of the real driving forces behind this is that it's difficult for us sort of as a larger community to dictate what each and every one of us is able to do to our own individual communities. It's every single situation is unique. And so one of the things that I'd like to keep this sort of e-conference and these virtual these get-together sessions is to focus more on us sort of in the background as the people who are creating and in the domes, so that we're trying to keep each other sane so that we can then be better for our communities. So in that sense, it's like, if we want to feel a little bit more selfish in talking about the things that are strictly planetarium related, that's really kind of what this environment and this venue is for, is to have us focus more on us as our own little community. And that, of course, is going to help us reach our own environments, our own communities, the people that we interact with, what we used to interact with on a daily basis, and who, we will be able to work with in the future. So in that sense, I'd like to get a little bit of feedback from all of you. This has gone a lot better. I think we're late enough into this where we can say that it went smoothly and not have to, like, if it all just collapses right now, we got 86 minutes, so I'm good. But sort of what you'd like to see this become in the future, what we can do, what we can add on. I spoke to Mark Webb a little bit earlier this week. Mark, you and I can discuss that a little bit more here in the open forum, of having this not just be a very structured event, but also having some very unstructured events, almost like online mixers that we could drop in and out of. So this is kind of the open session of, well, what do we want this to become? And given the fact that we have both the direct Zoom access and the YouTube, that we can come back and we can watch this again, that we have all of the transcripts, how do we want this to evolve, given the fact that this is no longer going to be a 2-week, hopefully everything will pass. This is something that's going to last a lot longer. So Mark, I've got you. You take the stage.
Okay. Yeah. So part of our conversation, one, I'm really impressed with how well this has gone. It's the idea of being on a video conference with 75 people has the potential to be a giant mess, and it wasn't, which is very encouraging. So one of the things that we were talking about is having a series of more informal sessions that were just sort of drop in, where you could, you know, just connect and see that other people were out there going through the same things you're doing. Share a little bit about what's going on with your personal situation. Not really, you know, a presentation-driven format, but a much more conversational thing. We're kind of like a virtual hospitality suite. And if people are interested in doing that, could I see maybe like a quick show of hands? Does people think that's a good idea? I'm getting, yeah, a fair number of people, probably enough to warrant putting together an event. So I'll be talking to Michael, and we'll kind of get that set up, but look for one of those early next week. We'll try to name them something different so that they don't get confused with this series. But hopefully we'll have a place where you can drop in and just sort of reconnect with your fellows around the world, so that we don't all feel like we're having to go this alone.
Yeah, if everybody wants to have, I don't know, Dave Weinrich's story hour, we can probably work with Dave and try to. There's a lot of positives there, but yeah, those are the sorts of things where this is a brand new world for us, and you know, I was talking to Mike Smale from Adler a couple of days ago, and thought, well, why don't we have a little 5 minutes of Mike Smale's recommendations about what's new in vinyl, like what you should be listening to this week in the planetarium. And so we're kind of an irreverent group. Let's not lose that. But it's going to take a lot to get through this, and hopefully we can have as much fun as possible with that. Steve Fentress, I'll let you go.
Oh, I didn't realize. I was raising my hand to concur with the idea of the open. So come when you can, leave when you must. Like, I know every day at a certain hour, every week at a certain hour, this is going to be open, and I can join if I am available, and if not, next week. Sounds great.
Yeah, and perhaps, you know, if there's an evening one for the US, you know, bring your beverage along, and it won't be recorded, guaranteed.
Yeah, whatever. We will not record it, and it is BYOB. So yeah.
BYOB. Bring your own lunch, bring your own dinner, whatever it is. Carolyn, going ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, we already have precedent. We call them Taurus incidents at the meetings.
Amy from New Jersey, Amy Gallagher, can we wear our astronomy PJs? Of course, of course. Yeah, and this is the thing. It's being able to work through the isolation that, like, we're not alone. You're not alone. We're in this together, and we'll get through it together.
Yeah,
Mark, did you have anything else?
I think the more that we keep talking to each other, the better we're going to weather this whole situation. I know I'm old enough to have gone through the aftermath of 9/11, and it was pretty lonely. So I think this is a much more positive experience that we've got going here.
Excellent. And so there's a couple of ideas I'm seeing here. Discussion about Common Atlas from Chris McCall. Somehow Anna got karaoke involved in this, so that seems appropriate. And then Megan McCullen from Detroit.
Yeah, not mine.
A Netflix party. We'll have you sing. You can like have a little concert from Berlin, like
Oh no, that's
light
not what
up jackets and everything.
It was actually not my idea. I'll partake, but it's not my idea.
Gotcha. All right, so I think we're just about the point where we could probably begin the wrap up, and you know, it's been an hour and a half and we've done a really good job of this. Want to let you know, next e-conference is next Wednesday. It's going to be March 25th. It's 9:30 Eastern Daylight Time. We have right now 2 or 3 presentations lined up. Of course, that's meant to be earlier in the day on the East Coast to allow for a bit more of the international side of the planetarium community to attend. And then from what it's going to look like, Mark and I will discuss sort of the more mixer networking conferences or get-togethers. We'll put those online, but we may very well stick to sort of like a Tuesday and a Thursday or a Wednesday and a Friday, and just have a couple of hours each week where we can go and look forward to being together. So the last thing we're going to do today, I'm going to turn it over to Andy with a little bit of a reading to kind of put us in the right mindset as we leave today and go into the weekend, and you know, how different the world has become in just a very, very short period of time. So Andy, the floor is yours.
Am I unmuted? I think I am. Yeah. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with Maria Popova, and she has this email newsletter and blog called Brain Pickings. And the one this week, the midweek pick-me-up, someone had written her, and her blog deals with science, philosophy, literature. It's catnip to me. I don't know about to all of you, but the science portion probably would appeal to a lot of you. Anyway, she wrote a book, and someone said the last page of your book really inspired me. So I'm just going to share it, and I'll put this blog post up on Dome Dialogues in case you want to come back to it. So this is her. Meanwhile, someplace in the world, somebody is making love and another poem. Elsewhere in the universe, a star many-fold the mass of our third-rate sun is living out its final moments in a wild spin before collapsing into a black hole. Its exhale, bending space-time itself into a well of nothingness that can swallow every atom that ever touched us and every datum we ever produced. Every poem and statue and symphony we've ever known. An entropic spectacle insentient to questions of blame and mercy, devoid of why. In 4 billion years, our own star will follow its fate, collapsing into a white dwarf. We exist only by chance, after all. Voyager will still be sailing into the interstellar shorelessness on the wings of the heavenly breezes Kepler had once imagined, carrying Beethoven on a golden disc crafted by a symphonic civilization that long ago made love and war and mathematics on a distant blue dot. But until that day comes, nothing once created ever fully leaves us. Seeds are planted and come a-bloom generations, centuries, civilizations later, migrating across coteries and countries and continents. Meanwhile, people live and people die, in peace as war rages on, in poverty and disrepute as latent fame awaits, with much that never meets its more, in shipwrecked love. I will die. You will die. The atoms that huddled for a cosmic blink around the shadow of a self will return to the seas that made us. What will survive of us are shoreless seeds and stardust. So that was from Maria Popova's Figuring, is what that was from.
Wow. Thank you, Andy. And so to end officially today, I will unmute all of you. Thank you all for coming out, and we'll see if we can't do this again next time.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Stay healthy, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Be well.
Thanks for this.
Good to see you all.
Everybody take care and stay safe.
Bye.